Gotta have a drum intro.
Absolutely.
And a guitar intro.
And a guitar.
Hey, welcome to the Startalk podcast. My name's Colin Wiebe. I've got a special guest in the studio who I will introduce in a moment. Thank you for those people out on Discord and YouTube and wherever you're watching right now. This is the inaugural show. This is the first one. And we're going to have a bit of fun here. We're going to talk some road stories, some rock and roll road stories. We're going to talk a little crypto. We're going to talk collectibles and NFTs and all that kind of fun stuff. So we're going to get started here right now. I know people are just joining if you're live in the chat. We have somebody, Garnet is actually monitoring the chat for questions, and I'm sure you're going to have lots of them. So I pulled out the Heil PR40 microphone tonight.
Nice.
And my Audio Technica headphones just for this show. So I'm pretty excited. It sounds pretty good in the cans. And so we're all set to go here. So thanks for being part of the show. My guest tonight, and hopefully he'll be on the show for a few more times, is somebody I've toured with many, many years. He's probably the quintessential road manager. He's the star of a motion picture called Almost Famous. He has a book out, and he's an expert in collectibles, among other rock and roll memorabilia. And I'm talking none other than my road manager and partner in the podcast that we started doing called Let's Talk Rock. This is Marty Kramer. And welcome, Marty. He's
welcome to everybody that's tuning in on Startalk here live streaming. This is a first for us.
Now you're sporting that beard because you're actually keeping the continuity for another reality TV show that you're doing where they caught you off guard when you had a beard, and now you got to keep it.
I can't say too much about it, but it's coming. It'll be this fall, probably start shooting in September, 12 episodes. It's really, really good. It's collectible related. It's charitable related. It's really a worthy cause, which I've given my time to in my off the time during COVID and that, and I'm really enjoying it. Thanks for the intro on that.
Yeah. So for those people that are just tuning in that don't know anything about Marty or didn't read the bio, when I said he's the quintessential road manager, I mean that because he was on the road for many, many years with some big name artists.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the artists you worked with over the years, Marty.
Yeah, well, the very first time I ever went out on the road was in the very, very early days of the Guess Who in Winnipeg, where I grew up. I escalated from that to meeting Burton Cummings, the Devrons, managing the band and touring that band. And then, of course, with Burton departing from the Devrons, transitioning into the Guess Who, that was a whole other ball game. Chad Allen's departure, Burton's entry, so on and so forth. It just kept going, Canadiana. And then I was fortunate enough to meet people that came through town that were touring, this and that. And you strike up a conversation. What do you do? What do I do? Here's what I do. Here's what you do. And the calls started to come in. In the early days, it was mostly local bands and these festivals and that, where there were multiple Canadiana acts on. It got bigger and bigger. It escalated to stuff like the Festival Express, where I was the stage manager, and that was quite a hoopla, not managing any specific act at the time, but having Randy Bachman on, having Mountain on, Janis Joplin, the band, the Grateful Dead, and Mountain, all this stuff going across on a train.
So that was the one that was on a train, right?
That's correct, the Festival Express. And there is a DVD out on that, and it is available. And if you look, and you see this long-haired, bearded guy on stage running around, that is me. Unbeknownst to me, they were filming every aspect of it. I was fortunate to end up with some rarities, like you say, footage-wise, of the jam car, which consisted of a baggage car where everybody went. There was instruments there. and it was like an open mic, fool around, unwind while you were on the train. Buddy Guy was there, Leslie West from Mountain was there, Delaney and Bonnie were there, Jerry Garcia, so on and so forth. And
I think Three Dog Night was there as well.
it might well have been. But the bottom line, all of this was being recorded and kept. Well, there's always these outtakes and stuff that they don't want to use. And this stuff seems to filter down my way. And I was fortunate enough to get a lot of that. And I have watched it. It's really quite interesting. But I mean, when you see guys playing for 5, 6, 8 minutes consecutive, just out of this world playing, never to be seen on stage. So I find that to be real neat. And then moving on into the more modern eras, I ended up managing and working with Burton and touring for 27 years everywhere and anywhere. A lot of opening acts, a lot of acts opening for us.
27 years with Burton Cummings.
Yeah, 27 years.
That's a career in itself.
Well, yeah, most guys would say that. Most guys were definitely envious of the fact, the longevity and everything, but it happens. And then escalating over and crossing over to Randy Bachman, at which point you joined, and for over 20 years there with you and everything, and being Randy's guy. So you take 47 years, and I'm 73. So yeah, and then all the rest of the time was just fillers. There was Summerfest, there was
well, there was Ringo, there was the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones, there was Ringo, there was the Who, there was these festivals, there was multiple acts, 3, 4 acts. There was one that I did for over 40 nights in America was Dr. Hook, Rare Earth, Grand Funk, the Guess Who, and BTO, all on the same show. And I rode in the Guess Who bus.
Yeah.
So that was quite interesting. A kid from Winnipeg being the tour manager on something like that in 45 American cities. Then there was also Dirty Dancing with Bill Medley, Eric Carmen, Ronnie Spector, Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers. Just unbelievable times. The Contours, the Dirty Dancers, all the casinos, all the celebrities, Chuck Norris, all these backstage people that I could only visualize watching them on television or something, never thinking that you'd connect the dots and be there standing right beside them, and they're there having seen the show and then coming backstage to meet the artists and everybody being introduced to each other. And then it just sort of a domino effect. It just starts to happen, and people say, what are you doing now? When you finish this tour, what are you doing? Well, I'm not. Well, come on over here. How would you like to try this? Well, whether it's a play, whether it's a touring thing, whether it's a tribute thing, whatever it is, rehearsals. I've been very, very fortunate, Colin, to...
So I know you've got a lot of stories, and we want to cover some ground tonight. And let's go back in time a little bit, Marty, and tell me, you also have a love for collectibles. And tonight we're going to be talking a little bit about NFTs, which are called non-fungible tokens. So some of the crypto people that are on the call, they're very excited that we've launched our Starwire token, and we've got some NFTs that we're creating.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just want to go back in history a little bit and find out, obviously with NFTs, we're starting a whole new collectible phase that's never been done in the history of the world before. But let's go back. What was some of the first things that you used to collect, and what got you going? I think I know, but I'll let you tell us.
Well, initially, growing up in Winnipeg, coming from the north end of Winnipeg, which was sort of a repressed area. There was the north end and the south end. The upper echelons was in the south end, and the above poverty was in the north end. I happened to be in the north end. Needless to say, when I first got started, shall we say, collecting, I didn't have a lot of stuff. I didn't have a lot of any specific thing. So you go to school, you have... what do you have? You got your personal stuff. Nothing really collectible. So I guess I'd have to say the first taste of collecting for me was vinyl. It was
Records. That's
the
what I was
record.
going to say. Yep.
Uh,
Me too.
78s were prominent, but they were scratchy and they broke easily in that. And there was more of a classical surge than there was rock and roll. Sure, there was rock and roll, Mercury Records and Regency and all those labels, Little Richard, all these people, they were there. And I have them all, the different Carl Perkins and Jerry Lee Lewis and all that stuff. But then it got better. It turned into a 45, which was really nice. And you could get that for like 29 cents, which was wow. And you could get that at Kresge's or Woolworths. So this was now a journey. You got up, you ate breakfast, you walked, or you had a streetcar or a bus. You never got a ride. Your parents would never take you there or anything. And you'd go on your own and you discover stuff that you had heard on the local radio station for sale. And then, wow, you've got this thing, but you don't have a record player. So then you got to go into the electronic aspect of it. Then you've got to educate yourself, self-educate yourself on what type of a turntable, what speed, 45, 33, 78, regardless. So you get a turntable. You start spinning these things. Then you're the envy. So then you're like a DJ like yourself. Suddenly you've got the phone. You're phoning guys and saying, hey, have you heard this latest song by Elvis Presley? And they go, no, where'd you get that? I've got it on 45. Let me play it for you. And you'd be playing people the song over the telephone.
Wow. Do you remember the first 45 you ever got?
I can't remember the first 45, but it was in around the Little Richard and that type of stuff, the James Brown, all that kind of stuff. It was pre-Beatles, definitely pre-Beatles, definitely pre-British Invasion. And I was also a major guy on instrumental. I thought, wow, this is the cat's meow. No words. But boy, the music was fabulous. So the Ventures came into play. The Rebels came into play. The Royal Tones came into play. The Safaris came into play. Barcays. All these groups. And they suddenly had these.
Santo and Johnny.
Yeah, Santo and Johnny, Sleepwalk, all that kind of stuff. And suddenly came the evolution of an LP, a long playing record, which went a speed slower, 33. And in the old days, sometimes when you're fooling around with the guys, I can remember one distinct time when we were playing Cream, which was Ginger Baker, Eric Clapton, and Jack Bruce. And they had a song called Crossroads. And there was a tremendous guitar solo by Clapton in it. Well, needless to say, the guys weren't familiar with the flicking of the little dial on the side of the record player. So while they got into it, I'd set it up sort of like a radio show, and I'd say, wait for this Clapton solo. It's out of this world. And as soon as everybody was focused on that, I changed the speed. And I'd move it to 45. Well, guess what, my friends? His fingers never left the strings. And they were going so fast. These guys were going, I've never heard guitar playing like that in my. This guy is the most unbelievable guitar player I've ever heard. And I'll say, yeah, but then he'll slow it right down and blend right back into the song. And the minute the guitar solo ended, back to 45. 33, pardon me, on the album. 33 on the album. And these guys were going, that's the best. And the funniest part was they'd go out and buy the records. They'd go home. They could not possibly have that experience. They would play that song and they'd phone me and they'd say, Marty, where did you get your album? Well, I got mine at Kresge's. Well, we bought ours at the Bay, and for some reason, the cut Crossroads doesn't sound like your cut. I says, defective. I says, defective. I says, hey, maybe I've got a collector's item, thus creating this persona around me that I'm a collector and I've got rare stuff. smoke and mirrors kind of concept. But then moving on, I just got carried away. And now, 73 years of age, I'm looking at on the low, conservative 100 plus thousand 45s and probably 200,000 albums. Now, what can you do? I can honestly say I haven't listened to every one of them, but I can honestly say I know where they all are, and they're in alphabetical order, so that takes a long time. And then I listen to 7-8 albums a day, and I just have fun. I'm just living the dream and enjoying every minute of it, loving every minute of it, like Loverboy says. And
so I've seen many of your records. You've got a lot of records, a lot of 45s, like you say, and the process of collecting them is almost I won't call it an obsession. It's something that you love. You've
it's a
enjoyed
passion.
that. It's a passion. Yeah, good
Yeah,
word.
it's the thrill. It's the thrill of the find, Colin, and
The
all
thrill of the find.
Yeah, it's
And
basically the thrill of the find. You tell me, like, I'll give you an example. A guy posts on Facebook the other night, and you know him, and we can speak openly. Mick Delavie from Randy's band, and he puts up something that he's looking for a song by a band called Train. Where do you get it? And with the technology the way it is today, a lot of people go train wreck or this and that. They're misinformed. But one guy comes up and he's got a link with the whole history, Colin, of every band member, the origin of the band and everything, but it still doesn't say where you can get it. So I take it one step better, because Mick's a friend of mine. I do a search. I find it. Not only do I find it, I find 3 of them available in Canada for $4 a piece anytime you want them. I phone Mick. I leave him a message. He phones me back. We get into the topic of Train and everything like that. I said, did you read the bio? He says, no, I haven't looked at the comments yet. I said, well, you're looking for it. I found it. He says, unbelievable, only you. So that's just one aspect of it, sort of like a consultant.
well, I've seen you find a lot of stuff over the years, and some of my fondest memories have been combing through garage sales and thrift stores and all kinds of stuff. For those that don't know, Marty and I toured together for many years, and when we were on the tour bus, a lot of times we would show up in these small towns, and nothing much better to do before sound check than to go wander around.
Absolutely.
And when we first started pre-internet, nobody really knew the value of what they had.
Very true.
And that's when we found some amazing collectibles. And I think in today's world with the NFTs, and we just like to remind that everybody that's listening, we're going to be giving away a rare CD tonight that has never been.
There it is, my friends. For your eyes only. There it is.
It's got a lot of the Guess Who and Bachman Turner Overdrive
recuts
on it, and they are rare. You can't buy them anywhere, and so we're going to give one of those away tonight. So stick around to the end, and we'll put everybody's name in.
Stay till the end to get it. We want to know that you've watched the whole thing and you're waiting for your free gift.
So it'll be autographed. It'll be sealed, and just leave a comment. And anybody who leaves a comment, we'll enter you into the draw for that. So I just want to skip ahead. We were talking about collectibles, but I also want to talk a little bit about, some of the experiences that you had with some of the famous Starr people. Like, obviously we called this Startalk, and we're kind of promoting Starwire. We have a token that's out there right now, and we're really encouraging people to work with us and be part of our community. So one of the things that we can talk about, which kind of goes with the word star, is talk about some stars. So maybe give us some insight into some of your relationships behind the scenes, stuff that guys wouldn't really hear on the radio or, read in typical magazines, personal experiences that you've had with some of the greats. And I know there's been many, so I'll cut you off when you've gone too long.
Well, yeah, I mean, we're talking 50 years of celebrity status and intervention and intermingling. So, I mean, probably my earliest introduction to anything was way, and I go way back, 1966, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, the Rolling Stones on their
Whoa.
first trip to Winnipeg. Now, an old friend, a dear friend of mine, Jerry Shore in Winnipeg, who is still alive, by the way, one of the greatest promoters and everything, he worked with the Winnipeg Enterprise, the Arena Enterprises, and he called me up and he said, look, you're working with Burton and the band and everything like this. How'd you like to come down and help me with a big show at the arena? I said, I'd love to. Meanwhile, it turns out that it's the Rolling Stones, unbeknownst to me. So I come down there and he says, yeah, they're from England. And they've got a couple of songs. I've never met them or anything. So he says, when they arrive, you'll meet them at the back entranceway and take them to the dressing room. And then whatever the manager of the band wants you to do, you'll do it. So I said, absolutely. So from that point on, they arrive, we meet, we do everything that they want us to do, take them to the stage, take them back, sound check, this, that, the next thing. Well, I figure this is probably the last time I'm going to see them because I got to work and everything. And in those days, they had what they call a Polaroid camera. Now, this Polaroid camera came complete with a gel that you put over the photo after you take it, which is about a 2-minute process after the photo is being taken. So the long and the short of it in a nutshell is, it's about 5 minutes till showtime. I've got this Polaroid camera in a leather box in the dressing room. While they were doing the sound check, I set it all up. I opened it up. I got it ready. As soon as the band came in, I said to the manager, could I get a picture of Mick Jagger? He said, sure, I'll take it for you. I said, no, this is a different camera. It's a Polaroid. It's not a box camera. It's a Polaroid camera, instantaneous. So he says, what do you mean? And I said, well, it'll develop itself. So he says, don't take too long. I got to go to the stage. When I get back, you better have the band ready to go. And I said, don't you worry. Well, I get the camera set up. I get the film put in it. I take the picture, Colin. I pull it out. It's beautiful. I code it. It's on the bench in the dressing room. All of a sudden, I hear this guy yelling, Marty, we need the band on stage. Let's get a run on that. Can you handle it? I said, I'm right on it. I said, I'll be right with you. He says, now. I panic. This thing is laying out there. So what do? I don't want it to be discovered. I put it in my sock with the part of the picture facing my sock and the back part to my skin. I didn't want to get any hair on the picture. I thought it'll be dry enough. Okay. End of show. The guy says, we got to go. I says, one favor, please. A signature from Mick. Sure, be quick about it. Meantime, the whole show, it's inside my sock. I forget to take it out. At the end of the night, I pull it out of the sock and I start to take it away from the sock. It's partially stuck to the sock. I figure, oh no, you idiot. Long story short, I pull it off only on the side, away from him. Fortunately, was there a little bit of plasticized stuff came off, and there's a bit of white. All the rest is there. Beautiful shot of him standing in the dressing room. So I say, Mick, could you please sign this? He says, to who? I said, to Marty. So he said, fine. So on the back of the Polaroid, to Marty, Mick Jagger, August 7th, 1966, the day they played Winnipeg. Never to be seen or had by anybody, and that's going into my book. But that's one of the first times that I came into contact with a very, very famous individual. And then little did I know, over the years, I'd end up not only doing the Steel Wheels, the Babylon tour, the SARS festival with them, and becoming good friends with all of them over the years, to the point that no matter what city or where they were, if we were in town with another band like yourself and myself and Randy and I were to phone up and say, look, I got the boys, they'd like to come down, see the show, we've got a night off, meet the boys, done. So it was very, very interesting.
Well, I can attest to that because I can tell a real quick story about
Sure.
the Steel Wheels tour.
Right.
Because I had been given tickets and backstage passes to the Steel Wheels tour, just like you said.
Right.
They always were very accommodating about inviting us. And so this particular night was pouring rain. And I just like, I don't know if I really want to go
Sure.
all the way down, but it's the Stones. I got to go see them.
Yeah.
But my wife didn't want to go. So
Oh,
I got to will call, and there were 4 tickets and 4 passes in the envelope. And as I started to go through and down the
yeah.
stairs and onto the floor, pretty
Yeah.
soon I was front row
Sure.
center.
Wow.
But prior to that, I had scalped the 3 tickets that were
Ah!
in there to these girls from Seattle, and they paid me face value for the tickets.
Wow.
And I put the money in my pocket and went to the show. But
Don't
when
book
these
this
girls found out that they were front row center,
Oh,
they were screaming and
got it.
buying me food and
Oh, for sure.
whatever. It was just incredible. But we were
Unbelievable.
sitting there,
Great.
and beside me was the guys from Guns N' Roses and
Yeah.
Rock Pile and these different guys.
All
But
the band. Everybody.
yeah, I
came.
was surprised. I mean, I can feel Nick's spit on my
Yeah, for sure.
just
Oh,
there.
that absolutely. And then, over the years, as you and I can attest that together, we were fortunate enough to tour with Cheap Trick, the Doobie Brothers, Nazareth. I mean, we've led.
Cheap Trick was fun.
Yeah, Cheap Trick was an amazing tour in Florida. The footage on that, you sang unbelievable that whole tour. You were right on the money, and it was a good tour. One thing that you guys never knew was that the manager of Cheap Trick came to me about 3 nights in and said to me, "You wouldn't mind closing, would you?"
Really?
And I said, "Excuse me? My contract says opening." He says, "No," but he says, "You guys have got more hits than we've got."
Yeah, we had too many hits.
And he said, "It's embarrassing." And he said, "Your singer is so versatile. He does the Guess Who, and your drummer does the BTO and everything. And that band is so tight with Randy there. Even Rick himself is envious and said, look, get those guys to close so we can get out of here and do what we got to do." And I said, absolutely not. I never told Randy that. I never told you that, but I'm telling our listeners that. That's one from the vaults that Cheap Trick asked us to close in lieu of opening because we had more hits than they did.
Yeah, we were a very hard band to follow because when you take 2 of the biggest bands and put all the hits together, it makes for a non-stop package. Most guys have got what 3 or 4 hits, and then they have some album cuts. This was just hit after hit after hit, and they still play them, and they play them well to this day.
Oh yes.
And for those that want to check some of those out, there's some on definitely on YouTube. But let's talk a little bit about some of the other maybe celebrities that you had a chance to work with. I mean, some of your funny stories is the Stevie Wonder story.
Well, the Stevie Wonder story is a good one, but I have one regarding let's see, there's so many, but okay, I'll give a really good one to our fans and listeners. I was fortunate enough to work in theater. So I got to drive Yul Brynner. I got to drive Anthony Quinn, Debbie Reynolds, Mickey Rooney, all these people, Paul Anka, Peggy Lee, so on and so forth. But one of my highlights, possibly my best story in theater, my best theater story, it's in the book, but I can tell it here to our listeners. I get a call from the producer and he says, "I need you to drive Mickey Rooney from the Four Seasons to the Queen Elizabeth every day. They're doing a show called Sugar Babies. Now, Ann Landers is in the production, and she's a great dancer, unbelievable dancer, like Betty Grable and that. Great legs, great dancer. So one day I bring Mickey a little early, and she's going through a rehearsal of the girls on stage with the orchestra. So Mickey says to me, "Is that Ann on the stage?" I said, "Yeah." He says, "I'm going to go out there and see her." I said, "Well, Mr. Rooney, your dressing room down here, I didn't know what to do. I mean, he's the star. I can't say to the guy, no. I can't pull him out like with a hook off the stage. Go." So I'm standing in the wings. He comes out. She's going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, rhythm, dancing, and everything. So he comes up and he says, "Hi, Ann. How you doing?" She says, "Fine." He looks around. Girls. She says, "Mickey, you smell wonderful. What's that you got on?" His response to her is, "I've got a hard on and I didn't know you could smell it." At which point, the chorus goes completely crazy, laughing. She turns red as a beet and she says, "Think that's funny?" Full speed. So it's like the story I told, from 33 to 45. This time she moved it up to 78, stormed off the stage. Rooney turned around, started walking back to me, laughing like a crazy man. And these girls were subjected to a 15-minute nonstop dancing at 78 speed. Unbelievable. And then when he comes to the wing, he says to me, "Got her, eh?" And that's a true story.
Wow. Well, some of the younger folks in the audience probably
May
don't
not
even know some of those names.
Yeah.
And,
We can move it up.
you know,
We
the
can move it up.
interesting thing is that those experiences and those people that you've met along the way, and of course, I'm a little later than you. Mine
Right.
are more with David Lee Roth or with
That's right.
Bon Jovi, and
That's right.
you've got some good AC/DC stories too. Tell them the one about the ashtray before we get.
Oh yeah, the ashtrays. Well, we're Vancouver. They played Vancouver, and they were on SARS and everything, and we knew each other, and Angus and all the guys. So I was fortunate enough to be the production guy on the show, and I ended up getting a request from the tour manager for ashtrays. Well, Vancouver has a ban on ashtrays. There's no smoking. So I say to him, "No smoking." He says, "I don't care. The band's coming. I have to have ashtrays." So I go, "But they don't exist." He says, "You have to get me ashtrays." So I phone the dollar stores. They say, "No, we don't have them." I says, "Not even paper ones, not even cardboard ones, nothing. We can't sell them, and they're restricted." So I go, "Holy geez." So I go to the manager, and he says to me, "What are you doing?" I says, "I'm going out to get you some ashtrays," thinking I would just disappear, couldn't be reached, and the band would come, and thus there would be no ashtrays no matter what happened. It's not going to happen. I start to think, where can I get ashtrays? Where can I get ashtrays? So all of a sudden comes into my head Value Village. So I drive to Value Village. I get there. I say to the guy, "Do you have ashtrays?" Fully expecting to say, "What are you, crazy? You can't have ashtrays." He says, "Right this way, sir." What? I go to the section. Not only is there a ashtray, there's 40 ashtrays. So I figure, okay. So I get some with Hawaii on them. I get some with some lithos on them. I get some Joe's Trucking. I get a couple colored glass ones, this, that, the next thing. Get 12 of them. $1 a piece, 12 bucks. I take the receipt. I put it in the bag. I take the ashtrays. I come racing back. Just as I pull up I just get into my office. He comes around the corner. He says, "The band's here. Do you have the ashtrays?" He says, "Yeah." He says, "Give them to me." I says, no, there they are. You're the manager. You better get the band. I'll walk with you. So he takes the band down the corridor at BC Place to their dressing room. I'm walking alongside. So Angus says, hey, how you doing, Marty? I said, fine. We're all talking briefly, just small talk. Welcome to Vancouver, this, that, the next thing, great show, whatever. All of a sudden, he says, haven't seen you for a long time. So what's going to happen is we're going to do like a 75-minute show. There's this runway. There's some real great graphic stuff happening behind us. There's all sorts of moving parts in this show. You're really going to have a good time. He says, now I feel like having a smoke. So he says, I trust there's ashtrays in the room. I says, no, I was just about to put them in there. And I have a bag. So he says, come in. The manager says, well, he says, excuse me, in. So I go in, put all the ashtrays on the table. The manager comes in and he says, there they are, boys. I think and they look at him and they say, you think you'll what? Well, I was thinking that maybe I would, I smoke too, you know, he says, and I wouldn't mind that one over there. And they say, none of these are for you. They're for us. We're the band. You're the manager. So let's see. I'm going to take this one and we're going to go out and do the sound check and that. So I said, are you going to put these on your amp? Yeah, he says, probably put them on the amp. And he says, you know, I play guitar and I smoke. And sometimes I put it in the neck and most of the time it hangs out of the side of my mouth, whatever. So he says, I think this one. I said, yeah, maybe you don't want that one because it's got a litho in that and the paint might start and burn with the hot ash and that. I says, take a plain one, inconspicuous, sort of like a black one or an off-colored one where it's not detectable. Yeah, good idea. Anyways, the manager at this point is already antsy. He says, okay, is that it? And I said, well, if they have any other questions, I'll be only too happy to answer them. And if not, I'm done. So I walked out. They ended up with all the ashtrays. The manager comes to me and he says to me, why did you do that? I said, what? I said, I didn't do it intentionally. I said, I just thought I knew them from before. I didn't have the time to tell you that. You're the manager, no disrespect. He said, brilliant move. He says, I couldn't have put that together myself. He says, excellent. So I said, thank you. And we became good friends. And over the years, we communicated. But anyways, that was my ashtray story. Nobody could get ashtrays. I end up getting ashtrays.
So people are asking in the chat right now, when's your book coming out?
Well, right now, I can honestly say it's in the hands of Simon & Schuster, who deal with Superman, and the lawyers there and everything are going over it. They're doing a mock cover, and they're doing a couple of mock chapters, and they're sending it worldwide to Amazon and to the book club. I just found out via my lawyer today that the book club has not 100,000, not 200,000, but 600,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And they want to place it there. And also they want to place it limited on the shopping network. And they'll have limited edition, 20,000 copies signed. And that's the only copies you'll be able to get. They say that they could probably sell those 20,000 copies in a couple hours.
Do you remember when? Do you remember when the Shopping Channel came on the tour bus?
Sure.
And
sure.
We were talking with Randy Bachman about those back. What were those things you laid down on your back? We were thinking about he was gonna start to produce them. And they said, okay.
Yeah. Oh, the rollers that he got, that he got from the States, and he was going to market them. He was going to be the distributor for those back rollers. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The Bachman roller or whatever. But it turned out the guy got on the bus and he said, yeah, you just need to have 3 semi-trailers full of them before we start advertising on the show.
Well, let's put it this way. Randy was the kind of guy that he needed all this stuff around him, these things to have going on, and he just did all that kind of stuff. He came up with back things, he came up with foot things, he came up with everything.
We got lots of people in the chat, and we've got some questions coming in.
Sure.
And
let's answer some questions then.
Yeah, people are asking about.
We can talk till we're 90.
Yeah, you can talk longer than that, I can tell. So anyway, we'll let people know when the book is coming out. Sure. And like you said, it's in the hands of the publisher, so it could be
called
any
Kramer.
day.
I can tell you that it's called Kramer. It's 330 pages with 150 photos of everybody that's anybody to me, and a story to coincide. At least there's 150 stories to coincide with 150 photos, and there's another 170 stories that you've never ever heard in your life. You haven't even heard them.
I've probably heard them more than once.
No, because for the most part, I never try to tell the same story twice to the people I've told it to.
Well, you've got a lot of stories, and we used to call it laugh off like crazy, because we used to travel in the van together, and we were part of the Million Mile Club, which means we traveled.
Right. You and I and Gary Peterson started the Million Mile Club. And for our listeners, if you don't know what that is in road terms, there's very few people that can lay claim to that. Gary Peterson being the godfather of rock from the Guess Who, the drummer, myself, and Colin, because every time there was a drive to be made, it was either myself or Colin or Gary, and thus tabulating mileage, not kilometers, not the Million Kilometer Club, the Million Mile Club, and unbelievable stuff transpired driving, and you'd see things, and you'd tell people, "Hey, did you see that shooting star?" And they say, "What are you on?" Because they'd wake up oblivious in the next town. We had just driven 12, 14 hours straight, stopped 5 times for coffee, donuts, food, and everything. They didn't stir at all. So,
follow the moon. Hey, somebody's asking, what was your favorite band to hang out with?
My favorite band to hang out with? Well,
us.
Well, no. To be honest, the earliest recollection of favoritism was, of course, the Devrons Burton's band when I got my start. Then moving on, you had no choice but to hang out with the Guess Who and or BTO. And then with Burton, of course, artist with various configurations of band. So, I mean, all of my stuff was like 47 years of that. The other hanging outs were like with Kiss or AC/DC. I can honestly say that I really, really had a good time with 2 of my favorite all-time bands, ZZ Top and the Stray Cats. Those 2 bands definitely did it for me. And ironically, Stray Cats opened for ZZ, and I did the Canadian run. It was the most unbelievable thing to see Stray Cats and then to see ZZ. I mean, those 2 were killer. That was the best. That was like sort of a match made in heaven. You couldn't have asked for a better show than that. That was one of my best times hanging. And then I'd have to say Leslie West, because Leslie, when he came and we went to see him at the House of Blues with Ringo and the band, when the Allstars, and then when Randy went up on stage and vice versa, he came out and opened. He did some stuff with us with BTO where Randy finished the set. You ain't seen nothing yet. They recorded Mississippi Queen, BTO. And Randy's favorite and Fred's favorite song was Mississippi Queen. Leslie's was Taking Care of Business, rest his soul less. And the bottom line is, I said to Randy, let's get Leslie on the tour. So he says, yeah, we'll do him in Jersey, and we'll do him all of that, that area, his hometown area. And the funny story is that Leslie was there. And as I said, they'd do You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet. They'd come out and they'd say, we have a very special guest, none other than Leslie West. And we covered one of his songs, and it's called Mississippi Queen. And Leslie and Randy and Fred and the band did Mississippi Queen. Then Leslie said, well, you know, you guys also had a big song, and it was called Taking Care of Business. And Randy let him do it. Now, if you've ever heard Randy do it with the false starts, the dot, 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 you want to hear more of that kind of stuff and hype the crowd. When Leslie did this, I don't think there was anybody ever looked at Bachman after that. No disrespect to Randy. I love him dearly, and he's a great guitar player. But Leslie, that was the biggest mistake I think Randy made, was letting him start that song.
Well, they played it great together, and I remember hearing some of those.
Absolutely.
We've had a few people on here saying that we should make an NFT out of Marty because he's collectible as it is. So there's
we're only making one, and we're auctioning it off to the highest bidder. Actually,
we'll make two, one with a beard, one without a beard.
Right.
So just to give a little background.
We'll make one for Garnet the technician, one for you, one for me, limited edition of 5. We'll sell 2, keep 3. So we have 3/4 of the entity.
That sounds like, well, the first time I got introduced to Marty's collectible passion, if you want to call it, was we were in Toronto, and we were at one of these big outdoor flea markets. And he said, follow me, follow me. And so I was just trailing around like a puppy dog with Marty, and he was going from stall to stall. But as we went into the entrance, this you'll remember was Queen's Quay, he came up and he saw all these Life magazines. And he's going through, and I think it was either the Marilyn Monroe or the JFK.
Yeah.
He says, look at this. He said, these are sehr rare.
Right.
And he said, just keep your eye on that. And he said to the guy, how much do you want for that? And the guy said, oh, that's expensive. That's big money. I think he wanted $75 or something like that for it. And as we went through the flea market, we got way down to the other end of the hall. He saw another guy selling Life magazines. And he said to the guy, he said, hey, do you have the Marilyn Monroe or the JFK version? Oh, no, I wish I had that. Well, I think I might know where to get one. How much would you pay for it? And so Marty did a bit of an arbitrage right there on the spot. He sent me running back and said, go buy this magazine, come back. Right. He sold it to that guy and made double his money just like that. So that double was my first introduction to Marty on the road.
It's it's the old adage, like, BTO, give me your money, please.
Somebody's asking in the chat, do you have a favorite collectible?
You know what? I wish I could say I did have a favorite. I'm big on Elvis rarities. I'm big on JFK presidential stuff. I'm big on Marilyn, like Colin mentioned. The trouble is, I'm all over the place. I wish I could just say, you know what? I just collect pens, like a friend of mine who collects Parker pens, or like Colin who collects guitars, or whoever out in the listening public collects something. Unfortunately, I collect everything. I don't know why I collect everything, but to a point of insanity. And then I just turn around and say, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then I become the gleaner and the cleaner and the wheeler and the dealer, like Colin says. And I just start to be one of those guys that's got everything. And then they ended up doing a show in Winnipeg on me called Get Marty.
That's right.
I went to flea markets, like Colin said, and garage sales. And I spoke to people. And I acquired stuff. While I was there staying at my friend's place, I came with an empty suitcase. I had to buy 2 new other suitcases in the thrift store to take home all the collectibles, and I was only there for 2 days.
That's right.
So that's what happens. I can remember distinctly, and this is a fact, in the mid-'80s with Burton, touring and doing a 30-day tour And coming home with no money, just the clothes on my back, Burton took care of me with food and drink and transportation. And all I had on the truck, when the truck pulled up in front of my house, collectibles. In this case, comics. And in
That's
this
right.
case,
Burton was quite a comic collector.
oh, amazing.
Still
Burton
is, I think.
is the most fantastic guy when it comes to comics. Pristine, though. Pristine. Burton is downtown Charlie Brown.
Isn't it him and the guy from Kiss? Aren't they the big
Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley? Yeah.
Go to the San Diego Comic Convention. Paul Stanley spends $1 million when he goes there. Now, here's a true story. Years ago, Burton said to me when we were in Cincinnati, I want the #1 Superman. So I said, fine. I look around. I phone around. What we used to do, like Colin said, in the latter years, we ended up going to these thrift stores and stuff like that. When Colin and Randy and myself, that 20 years. But prior to that, I used to go to the Yellow Pages. I used to look at all the pawn shops and all the secondhand stores and all the comic book stores because I knew Burton wanted comics. I wanted certain things, and I'd phone them. And if I found people that had the stuff there, I was gone. Burton would sleep. The band would sleep. I'd take the vehicle. I'd go. Needless to say, he asked specifically when I was managing him that he wants the #1 Superman comic. Okay. So I
needle in a haystack, no doubt.
Yeah, I find one.
Wow.
The guy turns me on to one. He says, but you'll have to meet the guy. Well, in those days, it wasn't like now. I knew nothing about comics. I knew nothing about value. That was his expertise, Burton's. So I say to Burton, you got to come with me. No, I got to sing tonight at my voice. Now, finally, I convince him to come. We get up, we have breakfast, we go. Where do we meet this guy? At a bank. Where is the comic? In a vault at the bank, in a safety deposit box. Okay. So Burton says, you go in, you negotiate. You're my manager. I go in. The guy brings out the comic. I look at it. I says, how much? It's got to be, he says, $15,000. I said, what? For a 10-cent comic, $15,000? Not going to happen. So he says, then it's not going to happen. I'll put it away. I says, hold on. I'll go out and speak to my friend who's interested in the book. I go out. First thing Burton says to me is, did you get it? I said, did I get it? How could I get it when I didn't know what it was worth? So he says, oh, it's worth a lot of money, Marty. So he says, can you get it? I said, I can get it. He says, how much? I said, 15 grand. He says, tell him I'll give him 10 grand right now. So I said, fine. I go in. Guy's sitting in this little booth. He's got the comic in front of him. I said to him, the good news is I spoke to my guy. He's interested, but not at 15. He'll give you 10. Forget it, the guy says. You're way off. So I said, I'm not authorized to go beyond 10. He said, and I'm not authorized because I own it to sell it to you. So I said, thank you for your time. Puts it away back into the vault. I go outside. First thing Burton rolls down the window, where's the comic? I says, I haven't got the comic. What? You mean you didn't get it? I said, no. He said, I can't believe it. You didn't get it. I said, God's truth, Burton, I didn't get it. I offered the guy 10K. He says, no, he wants 15. He's not budging. I said, if you want me one more shot to go in, I'll throw 13K at him. 13. Right now. Nah, forget about it. Forget about it. Okay, now remembering that this is latter part of the 80s, okay?
Yeah,
now,
late 80s.
Late 80s.
Oh, all you NFT people out there, have a listen to this.
Now, this is late 80s. Now, moving ahead, the clock. Let's turn the clock way, way ahead to mid-2000s. Long time, boys. Long time. 30, 40 years we moved the clock ahead. Now, Cummings still does not have a number one Superman. I get a phone call from Burton from the San Diego Comic Convention. He says, Marty, you're not going to believe it. The search is over. I said, what do you mean the search is over? How do I know what this guy's looking for? He doesn't say, I've got a number one Superman right off the hop. He just says the search is over. So I said, you got to be more explicit. So he says, I finally found what I've been looking for. I said, you're still not telling me what you found. Okay, I found a number one Superman. Hurrah. I says, fabulous. I said, can I ask you a question? Shoot. He says, oh, you're not going to believe who I'm here with. I'm here with Paul Stanley. He's standing beside me. I said, say hello for me. Before I let you go back to your collecting, what did you pay for it? Take a guess what he paid for it in mid-2000. Just take one guess.
Let's get some guesses from the audience. Let's
Okay,
get them involved.
Take a guess. We'll take the first three guesses. What he paid for a number one Superman in the San Diego Comic Convention in the mid-2000s.
And this is, you're going to find, you know, that these NFTs, especially if you get number ones or some of the early ones, will go up in value over time, just like these. We've got somebody who says 800K. So
no,
let's leave it there.
way off. Much
50K.
closer. Kelly, very good. Kelly, warm. Kelly's warm. And
50K, yeah.
They're both identical. So that's our first three. We can't take any more. Oh, there's James at 40. Needless to say, 68,000 US. A far cry from 15,000 US. So that just goes to show you the investment value of that specific comic. Number one Superman. Now,
hang on. We kind of stalled there for a second. We froze. At least I did.
I freeze? No, I'm okay.
Okay. What was the number?
The number was 68,000 US dollars for a comic that he could have had in the mid 80s for 15,000, which is a $53,000 increase. Now, the listeners should know that Burton has the first 50 or more Supermans in pristine condition. 1 to 10 are probably worth 200 grand.
Christopher just came on and said that the Grateful Dead will be releasing a bunch of NFTs as well. Good. So I think this is going to start a trend. Yeah. And we just want to remind people to stay on till the end. We're going to be giving away a collectible CD that's not available in stores, not available on Amazon.
Once again, this one, that's the one we're giving away right there. Excuse the lighting, but that's it.
And we're going to take a few questions. We want to make sure that for the people that are on here that are learning about crypto, about tokens, we want to acknowledge the Bees Social folks that are on here. And they've been just awesome. They've been a great group, and they've been supporting us all the way along. We'd like to have a shout out to them. And if somebody from their group wants to get on and just explain how the whole token system, tokenomics works with Starwire, which is our token, and some of the tokens in their project. I'm not in control of the show, so Garnet, if somebody wants to pop on, or if you want to pop on.
There's Garnet. Great. Hi, Garnet.
Hey, guys. Good time.
Hey, guys. Yeah, no, I thought this is, part of the show. We want it sort of 90% fun and 10% education.
Right.
And I think this is the perfect time. Just, we're talking about these, in real life assets, the number one, and how similar it is with NFTs.
Absolutely.
The lower the number, the more valuable. It's the exact same thing.
Exactly. 1 to 10, like Garnet says, rule of thumb. Yeah. If you can get these at 1 to 10, which you'll never get because Colin, myself, and Garnet will get that. Just kidding.
Well, and we recently, Marty, what you don't know is we recently sort of launched our, personal Starwire art NFTs. Wow. And I think right now there's about 130 out there. Maybe someone knows it can put it the exact number, but that was the exact thing. When we first launched those NFTs, everyone was going for, I of course got number 3, right? But I don't know who got 1 and 2. Actually,
I got 0. I have 0.
Yeah, was there a 0? I don't know. Someone might know.
I have 0. I said I've got number 0.
You got 0. Okay.
I got nada. See, like this, I got 00. That's 00.
You remember, Marty, when I did my Elvis poster?
That's right.
I did a painting of Elvis.
We'll give one of those away. I've got them in the warehouse in
storage in a
package. We'll definitely give one of those away. Tell them about that.
I went to Graceland and I displayed a painting of Elvis that I had done, and it won the fan favorite that year at International Elvis Tribute Week. So they gave me an award, a plaque, and whatnot. So I made limited edition posters out of that painting. And the phone call that I got when they published that in the newspaper that I had won that award, Bruce Allen, Bryan Adams' manager, same as Michael Bublé's manager, phoned me up and said, I want one of your posters, but I don't want any unless it's number 1. No, he wanted the limited edition number 1 poster.
I thought you did that big one that you did.
No, he didn't want the painting. I did another painting for Bon Jovi, and he wanted that one, but that was already sold to John. He wanted the number 1 poster, and he got it. He has it to this day. He has number 1.
That's the value of that stuff, guys. That's the value of that. Not reproduction, real. Reproduction is fine too, knockoff, but real, like Garnett's talking about now. Get in there, get them. Start collecting them, and if we start changing them up with different pictures and personalities and stuff, guess what? You're going to be notified, and you're going to have an opportunity to get those.
Yeah. So part of what was true for 50 years ago is true now in this NFT space, and it is that rarity, is what will give value to it. And I was, telling Marty earlier, kind of part of the value is who owned that particular, collectible before you had it,
True.
And that also gives value. And of course, for those of you who don't, understand crypto or whatever, but the cool thing about these NFTs is that each owner is tracked, right? So you can follow the history of this collectible as it gets forwarded, or maybe you keep it. Like I say, that standard thing, what we went through tonight, the Superman asset, it gains value the longer you keep it. And so when it comes to Starwire, we have a Starwire token. It's a cryptocurrency. And for those of you who don't know a lot, but the basic principle is still the same. The idea is not that you buy it and sell it the next day. The longer you hold it, the more valuable it becomes, right? So with our NFTs, what we do is when you purchase that NFT, it's given an automatic 12-month lock on it. And for those 12 months, you're going to hold it, and it's going to increase in value. But the current sort of promotion that we have going on right now, and also these NFTs we have are a little bit different from your regular art-based NFTs. There's, thousands and thousands of people minting art-based tokens. And what we did was we embedded 2 crypto assets inside of that art token. And the user, whoever buys it, you're allowed to embed whatever value. So we have 4 different values. A bronze NFT is from $1 to $1,000. Silver, 1,000 to 5,000. Gold, 5,000 to 50,000. And a platinum, 50,000 and above. And one of the assets embedded into that is Ethereum. Of course, it's like one of the most well-known assets, strongest performing. If for those of you who don't know crypto, if you Google best performing financial asset of 2020, 2021,
Right.
Ethereum is going to come up. And one of the other most amazing assets in that is the Starwire token. And we're building a special token. It's built for musicians, for filmmakers, for game developers, and it stores monetary energy. And what we're building a series of apps, especially for people. We've got all kinds of fun stuff in develop, specifically for the entertainment industry. So, but what we have right now for any of you, we'll put it in the notes of this video, the link where you can go and buy these NFTs, these collectibles. It's app.bees.social. And like Colin was saying, there's a community of people, you say, because you might be saying, I have no idea. I wouldn't know the first step. What's cool is there's a whole community of people. We're going to put their link in there. If you need to know more, you want to understand more, they're called the Bees Social Community, and they meet every day. They can talk with you, answer your questions, and help you perhaps purchase one of those collectible NFTs.
Wow.
And we're not giving financial advice here in any ways. This is edutainment, entertainment. But I think one of the things I wanted to make sure and clear to everybody on the call was that with our Starwire platform and our token, that we're working with real people behind the scenes, and I think Marty is somebody I brought on just to give you a sense of what we call access. And Marty, when we first started doing Let's Talk Rock, we said, well, this is how it started. I got a call after we were finished a Bachman tour, and Marty says to me, he says, Colin, you like Elvis songs. I got this show and it needs a piano player. Do you want to do it? And I said, okay, I can play most of these Elvis songs in my sleep. And I went to the first rehearsal, and we ended up creating this Elvis tribute band and a whole show called Legends of Rock and Roll. And I had no idea how intense the music was. I mean, we started doing people like Sean Clush and Chris Connor and some of the biggest Elvis tribute artists in the world. And this was more than just like a little bar gig playing Elvis songs. This was like a real show. And so while we were on the road, we would be traveling. And of course, I do a lot of the driving, and so does Marty, just because we like to. That's why it's the Million Mile Club. And we started telling these stories, and the guys in the back seat were just laughing and saying, you guys got to record some of this stuff.
Yes.
So I brought a little Zoom recorder with me on tour, and we created a podcast, and you can hear some of them on letstalkrock.ca, and we called it Let's Talk Rock with Colin and Marty. And the reason that we could talk to a lot of these people is because we had access. And so to be able to talk to Creedence Clearwater, to Three Dog Night, to all the artists that we've met over the years was the premise for the show. So with our Startalk show, I thought the first person that's got to be on it is my co-host on Let's Talk Rock, Marty Kramer, and just let the people out there know what kind of access you actually have, Marty. If anyone can get to Elvis, you can.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You haven't even spoke about Ringo yet. We got to have a little Ringo story.
Well, Ringo is a solid guy. He's a very, very together man and a very funny guy. He used to tell jokes and regale us with all these funny Beatles experiences and that. A good story for me to tell our listeners, and it'll be in the book, is go back now. When we go back, we're going back far. We're going back to 1965, 66 again. Go from 2022 now back. 21 now, going into 22, but backing it up from 21 all the way back the clock to 1965. I get a phone call from none other than Daryl B., a great DJ, rest his
Great
soul.
DJ, yeah.
Did many, many years in Winnipeg. Guess who? MC'd shows. And in long story short, Daryl B. says to me, I need a ride to Minneapolis. I says, Minneapolis? Minneapolis is 500 miles from Winnipeg. He says, yeah, I haven't got a car. And I was wondering if you could drive me. So I says, why do you have to go to Minneapolis? He says, because the radio station just got a cordial invite from Brian Epstein. The Beatles are playing there. Now remember, this is a guy telling you this on a telephone who's a DJ. So I go, right. So I suppose you're going to meet the Beatles. Oh, he says, never mind, meet them. He says, I'm going to interview them. I said, really? So I said, what do you need me to do? He says, well, I need you to drive me there. And then he says, I need you to help me carry this case, this little case with a microphone, a cassette, a microphone recorder into the press conference and a camera. Okay. So now I'm his assistant from the radio station. He doesn't tell me that they only give one credential to him. Nothing to me. So we arrive there. I drive like a crazy man 10 hours. We get there. He says, there it is there, stage door. We come to the stage door. The guy says, yes. He says, Daryl B., an assistant from CKY Radio, Winnipeg. The guy looks and he goes, yeah, I see Daryl B., CKY Radio, but I don't see anybody else. He says, well, would you expect me to carry all this stuff and do an interview and everything like that? Guy says, no. And in those days, it was just if you spoke to somebody in a nice fashion, you got in. I said nothing. Daryl waltzed me in. In we go. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a coordinator comes up and says, are you here for the press conference? Yeah, right this way. Doors open. We walk in. And it's just like you see in the old movies, 10, 15 mics in front of the Beatles sitting there. We're walking in. We're late. We're not early. We're late. And Daryl's going, quick, turn the microphone, quicker than that. Meantime, they're just about finished talking and answering questions. So how do you get in there? So you're like waving your hand in the air with a microphone, trying to get some form of audio. I don't think that was too successful. He says, we got to get some photos. I said, how? We can't. We're surrounded. You can't. So 2 seconds later, as luck would have it, Brian Epstein says, we will be allowing 3 shots of the band. 1 here at the table, full band, and 2 on stage. Well, guess what? Hardly anybody in the audience had a camera because it was an audio interview, not a photo op. Who had a camera? Me.
You did.
So Daryl says, we have a camera. Epstein says, right this way. Right to the front, like Colin said for the Elvis show and his girls and everything. I'm standing in front of the Beatles. Hamna, 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 Ralph Cramden, the Honeymooners. What's going on? Freeze. And Epstein's going, hurry up, quick, take the shot. We got to snap. And it's a box camera. Then we go to the next room, stage. Well, I've never been in a situation like this in a stadium and not in Minneapolis. So we go to the stage, boom, snap the shots. One has the time clock in back of it, and the other has them in suits. They never wore those suits on stage. They only wore those in the press conference. So now, that's my story. Take it back to Winnipeg. We're big shots. Take the photos to my uncle who owned Winnipeg Photo. He develops them into 3x5s. Mint. He gives them back to me. Now that's mid-60s. I end up being the tour manager for Ringo in 1995. 30 years later, I meet Ringo in person as the tour manager. We're sitting around chatting on the private jet, and he says to me, Marty, he says, I'm doing a big book with Neil Aspinall. He says, Neil is coming on the tour, and he will be taking photos everywhere. So he says, whatever he needs, you take care of him. I says, done. So that gets me to thinking, do I or don't I say anything? So once Neil comes and takes the shots and goes back to England, I say to Richie one day, I said, listen, I have 3 shots of you guys in Minneapolis, never before seen ever by the human eye. He says, get them to me, Marty, and I'll put them in the book. Now that's 1995, Colin. I'm ecstatic. I'm going to be in a Ringo book. I've got these pictures seen here, Marty holding rare, blah, blah, blah. I get to tell a story. He says, you're in the book. I get home. Tour's over. I unpack. I go, I better find those photos. Okay. All of 1995 goes, no photos. All of 1996 goes, no photos. Mid-1997, I take a look and I see that Ringo and the All-Star Band with Peter Frampton and everybody are playing in Seattle. So Randy phones me and he says, I got to get a CD over to Peter Frampton of some songs. So let's go to Minneapolis. I'll pick you. Let's go to Seattle. I'll pick you up. He picks me up. We drive all the way to the Paramount in Seattle where Ringo and the All-Star Band are playing. We go there. We get our credentials and everything. The first thing he says is, I'd like to go in and see Ringo. So I said, let's go. So we knock on the door. He says, come in. We come in. Randy goes in first. He says, Randy, how's everything? He looks beyond Randy. I'm standing there, no beard, the way I was before. And he says, Marty. I says, Richie, how are you? He says, fine. Where's the photos? You want to talk embarrassed? You want to talk embarrassed? Worse than when I was in front of the press conference in front of all of them. I was in front of my former employer, Ringo Starr, and he's asking me for the photos. I don't have the photos. So I'm honest. Honesty is the best policy. I go, Richie, I don't have the photos. He says, Marty, I'm into my second book. Time is running out. I said, well, listen, maybe third time lucky. I promise you, Richie, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look for those photos, okay? Now, let's move the clock ahead from 1997, 8, 9, 2001, all the way to 2020. Another 22, 23 years. I still haven't found the photos. He's 80. I still haven't found the photos. I figure this guy's going to think I'm the biggest schmuck. As the luck would have it, I go downstairs to move something. I move 27 things to get to what I got to get. Soon as I move those 27 things is a drawer, a sliding drawer with collectible 45s in it. All the Guess Who, all the BTO, all the British Invasion, all the pick sleeves, hundreds and hundreds of them. And you know what? The minute I reached out to the drawer, the top drawer of that filing cabinet, I said to myself, those pictures are right here in a little binder. Guess what? I opened that drawer, and there they were.
Wow.
Where I put them, I moved into the house in 1992. I did Ringo in 95. I couldn't find him in 97. Never find him till 2020. So I said, I've got to honor my commitment. I do a little research. Neil Aspinall has passed away. Okay, Neil's gone. Ringo has since put out multiple books himself. As long as he keeps putting out books, I think I've got a shot. So what do? I get a nice formal letterhead. Kramer Management, Marty Kramer. Hi, Richie. Remember me, the schmuck that didn't give you the photos in 95, that missed your first book, that missed your second book. I lay all blame on myself. And I said, enclosed, please find the shots that I promised you. Please use them as you please. Now, that was the fall of 2020, and I just found all that correspondence the other day in my office in a drawer with the binder and the folder and the shots that I took to have remade and that. And that's a true story. I sent it to his lawyer. I have not heard back. So whether or not they'll make the cut, I don't know. But I can tell you again, honesty is the best policy. I'm a man of my word. I sent him the shots.
Wow, that's a fantastic story. You know, we were only supposed to be an hour on this, and I think
Doesn't matter. We can do 3.
people are excited to hear some of these stories. And I know I've been touring with you for 20 years. I never get tired of hearing the stories because they're.
Nor do I get tired of telling them.
So much fun. But we have to give away that limited
That's right.
edition CD.
That's
and
right. It's right here. We're going to give it away. It's
we have access, and this won't be the last show by any means.
No.
We're gonna be talking to some other well-known people and
sure.
bring up some more stories. And if you guys have any suggestions for this show, put them in the comments below. This is the first one, the inaugural one, so we're kind of winging it, but it's always fun to get on the phone with Marty or onto a call like this and hear some of these stories of real life incidents that you won't hear on the radio and you won't read in a magazine. So this is what's exciting. And Garnet, if you want to say a few words.
Yeah. So tell me again about this this rarity. So this is kind of you can't buy this anywhere. Both of you are going to sign it because both of you are involved in this project.
Sign the Randy Bachman songbook, which was recorded. Colin's featuring on Donnie McDougall, a former Guess Who guitarist in the Guess Who and Mother Tucker's Yellow Duck, very great singer in that. Roger Boulanger, an unbelievable drummer who has since left us. Of course, Randy Bachman. Colin on lead vocals, unbelievable singing by everybody. Pure rarity. We only sold this at the shows, and we haven't done the Randy Bachman band, I think, since the 90s. So you're talking super rare, sealed. You're not going to find this.
So you get this, and then you're gonna, whoever gets it, you stick this in your closet for another 20 years.
That's right.
That's it. Don't play it. Just keep it sealed. And one of the reasons that we made this in the first place is we made what was called lookalikes. So for those out there that are interested in the whole intellectual property issue, which I am very much, and so is Garnet, there's a time when a publisher and someone else, like a record label, will own the songs that you wrote or recorded and won't let you use it for something. And in this case, and Marty, you could probably tell them a little bit more detail, but there were certain songs in the catalog that were not allowed to be used. So we had to do what was called lookalikes. And I know when we did Office Depot, we played for the Orange Bowl on the 50-yard line, and we played our own version of Taking Care of Business, but we couldn't use the actual
we did a loop. We did a continuous loop like Colin said.
Because we had to lip sync because of the echo in the stadium. There's no way we could have played live when we did that show. So we had to record, but we couldn't use the original Taking Care of Business. We had to do a re-record.
I mean, Colin's right. And then Randy also at the Orange Bowl, as Colin mentioned, not only did we do that there and do that live, Randy also did the national anthem on guitar at the Orange Bowl.
Plus, we did the NBC parade
as well. We also did the NBC parade on a plywood stage.
On a float.
There was a 1957 Plymouth car underneath that stage with the roof cut off, and the stage was built on top of the 57 Plymouth. Everybody got on it, and we just continually drove in that parade.
Tal Bachman was our
drummer.
drummer.
We thought it's a block or two. I think it must have lasted 45 minutes. Everybody was exhausted. Colin and the guys were dying on that float. It was unbelievable. But that was Taking Care of Business in the Orange Bowl.
Looping it. Yeah.
It was just.
What I didn't know is that the actual parade that you see on TV is only 2 blocks long.
That's right. Exactly.
But,
Meanwhile,
anyway,
we
make
went
sure you
100
guys
views, yeah.
smash the like buttons and hit the subscribe thing. That's what all the YouTube
right.
guys say.
We'll be
But,
back.
I think it does make a difference. And,
Okay, here's the draw. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
I can.
Yeah.
I've got everybody's names in here who left comments. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. For the rare, and next week we're gonna keep offering something.
I'm gonna dig into my vault for next week.
Yeah, and we also we got to figure out who our next guest is. We'll let you guys know on our Telegram. Okay, here it is. The random name is Mark Cook.
All right, Mark.
Congratulations, Mark.
All right. Congratulations.
How much you want for that rare CD, Mark? How much you want for it? I'll buy it now.
Let's take it. That's funny. Well, we need to get your contact information so we can sign it and send it. But this has been a real fun show, Marty. Thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks for having me.
I know you have 100 more stories, so we will have to do more and more of these. And if you guys in the audience have any suggestions and anything that, that you would like to talk about and like to hear, and people that we would like to have on the show,
right,
to talk everything from music to movies, entertainment, crypto, tokens. It's going to be fun, and I guarantee you that every show is going to be entertaining. And with guys like Marty on the show, it can't help but be. So,
but make sure you tell all your artist friends what we're about in this music connection that Garnet spoke about. And if you have any solo artists or bands that you think warrant being here, let us know, because we want to have the finger on the pulse of upcoming new music, what's happening. I mean, old is old, new is new, but we're living in the moment for the moment, and this is the way to go. Let's get these things going. Let's get them collectible. And like I say, the moon's the world, who knows, the stars, the moon, whatever. You can put anything on them, and you can own it.
That's right. And I was just talking with the CEO of Atlantic Records, who has 1.5 million vinyl albums. And Marty, you got over 200,000. There's some gems in there. We're going to start to pick some of those things out.
Oh, yeah.
And find some things that no one has ever seen before.
Or heard of.
Take some photos of those and create something special. Anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun, and really excited to have an audience to actually speak to tonight. So thanks, Garnet, for putting it together.
Yeah, much thanks, Garnet. God bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.